you are an amazing dancer if they have never seen you before, but you are an amazing person at the same time. So let me just give the breakdown of how I know you.
Okay,
So I first met Melody from So You Think You Can Dance, but most people met her skipping along on her audition tape. I'm bringing it way back.
I remember that.
To the audition.
Like it was yesterday.
So funny. But you have such a bright personality. That is exactly who you are. And it just is beaming everywhere. And I just randomly came across, I don't know if it was a video of you, but you were doing more of a fitness thing online. Okay. And so that totally flipped the script for me. So I wanted to have you on this level up conversation because I've been talking to people about the shift online, how people are staying connected, whether you like it or not. Like I don't personally, have a take one way or the other, but it is a thing. So I've been having these conversations with people just to kind of see their take on what's been going on.
Right.
But you have been dancing, and this whole thing is just new for people. So how are you getting into the conversation? Like, where are you seeing yourself fit in?
Well, with everything that's been happening, it's so awesome that we actually have a platform to be able to stay connected. Granted, there are delays in Zoom.
Right.
So my dog is totally scratching at the door. Let me bring my dog in really fast.
Okay, yes. Well, so we always want to have friends join us in the conversation.
Okay.
I know that
Okay.
We had someone, a cat joined us one time, Nina's dog joined us, and now your dog. It's all about being at home.
It is. This is Lily Cheeseburger. Because I love cheeseburgers and stuff. Okay, sorry. So yes, we are so fortunate to be able to have a platform, to continue what we're doing with dance studios being able to remain open by hosting Zoom classes. It's been awesome. And I was doing some from my house, which were great. You kind of just have to ignore the delays because it's not really about the delays. It's just more about people moving and feeling that freedom in their homes, to just stay training and all of that wonderful stuff. But as far as fitness, so that's kind of like a newer thing that I've been doing it for almost a year now. So I'm on the piloxing creative team. So I do their bar choreography. And
tell people what piloxing is, because I'm like, what are you on and what should I be doing? Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So it's very interesting that I'm part of this company because I for years and years have loved blending words together. It's just kind of like a thing that I liked doing, and I'm kind of fast at it. People think it's really funny and stupid. But so the company is called Piloxing, and it's Pilates and boxing. So a lot of our movement, there are a lot of power moves. There's punching and all of that stuff. And she has a few different sections. There's one that's more hip hop based. There's another that she just started with booty bands and stuff. And so then I do bar. So yeah, and that I have to say, when I went into the headquarters to do that Zoom class, and piloxing is a world-renowned thing. They travel pre-quarantine, obviously. They travel all over the world. They certify people all over the world. And so we did 2 sections, one in the morning and then one kind of early night. And I could not believe the amount of people that joined. Yeah, so I was teaching people from Korea and Russia. It was really, really awesome. And yeah, and they follow along, and it's very much all levels. So it was so awesome. I loved it.
Cool. Well, so are you working towards, because I know you work also on convention and teaching faculty there. So what do you see as maybe a piece of advice that you can give somebody who is taking class to be a better online learner? What can they do?
Yeah.
To get the most out of online class.
My dog is crazy. Lillian.
Oh my goodness, what is happening?
Girl. old and she has the most energy of all my dogs.
Got fight in her.
So I'm like, how do you know why? It's just carpet in this room, and so she just thinks that she's like the queen or something. Okay, so yes, advice to be able to take classes better online. You know, first of all, it starts with a very strong Wi-Fi connection.
Right.
Very important.
Yes.
But you know, I very much take class, especially now that I'm older. When I take class, I watch a lot. Like, I think now, not just because I'm, you know, I get tired easier, but I find that watching the teacher for timing and then watching the other students is really, really, really helpful. I think learning that way for me, especially when I started doing like professional companies and being about repetition, and it was more about finding details a little bit more, you know? So being able to look at a screen and just watch and kind of dissect all of those details, I think is really good for people, not just learning online, but also obviously in a convention setting. So that's my whole thing, is to just try to watch really carefully, like use all of your senses, dance obviously, but listening to the music, especially, you know, going back to this delay, because my friends and I, we joke about it all the time with the delay.
Yeah.
Because everything is you're so unsure about it, you know, like you really have to look and listen, which is what we probably need to do in life too.
Right. So good life advice too. In that, well, so when you are looking at like your next thing, like what is your next thing? Because I always ask everybody, well, like, what do you want to do? What would be on your wish list? What do you think you can, what like do, you know, that has, this pandemic has kind of pushed you into, because I feel like a lot of what people are doing now are things that people have just been like putting off for a long time. And now, you know, if they're not affected health-wise, then they're like, hey, I have all this time. Why don't I just do it? So are you working on anything, or think that you have something that you're kind of like, I should probably focus my energy or time on something else?
You know, I've been doing more like arts and crafts and stuff. This is so random, but I've been painting like planters, like little like succulents and all of that stuff, just, and I love it. So therapeutic. So that's kind of like
Did you paint what's behind you?
Oh, I did. Yeah, I went to
I
went to the march in LA on the 14th, I believe. Yeah, so I painted that. It's actually like, it's so funny because this actually, like, I don't know which way I'm supposed to move this for it to, but the fist kind of looks like a cupcake, which I'm not mad at.
No, but that's good. So that's the thing is, you know, you're artistic in many ways. So, you know, dance is one, but also painting. Yeah. So are you going to end up using that as, you know, more of like a therapeutic thing, or are you going to start selling it on Etsy?
That's what my friends and I were talking about. They're like, you should just sell them, you know, like in my backyard, we have succulents, we have aloe vera and everything. So they're like, you should just like stick everything together, put some rocks in it, stick a plant in it, and then sell it on whatever. And I'm like, I mean, I could do that. Yeah. But for right now, it's more of just like a hobby, you know, like I'll drink my wine and I'll paint my planters. You know.
I told my husband, I said, the next version of online classes for dancers is going to be drinking and dancing at the same time.
You know, they got goat yoga, they have dog yoga. I have actually seen beer yoga, so I think maybe beer dancing might be a thing too. So, or wine dancing actually is more like it.
It'll be like a country line class, but with wine.
Yeah. Country wine class.
Yes. I don't know. I'm sure there's something that will come of this. Somebody will watch this, and the next thing you'll see is a country wine class. Well, so what do you think? Because I know that we were talking about how we first met. When you look back at some of those moments, what is your reaction?
Oh, goodness gracious. You know, I kind of like avoided watching kind of or seeing anything from that time, just because I'm always like, oh, why are my eyebrows so far apart? Or like, oh, I wish I was a better dancer at this or whatever. And it wasn't until recently that I kind of started to embrace it a little bit more. You know, I mean, it was such a long time ago, and a lot of people that I run into are like, oh, I never actually watched the first season. I only watched
Yes.
from the second season and on. And you know, we didn't have a tour either, and so like, you know, we don't get a lot of love. I'll just you know, but I mean, that was the first season, and I'm kind of like okay with that, because I feel like our experience was very raw and genuine. And so then now that I like look back on old things, I'm like, hey, you know, that was so natural. Like we all just threw ourselves into something. But I mean, I will say I do have the fondest memories of that time. It was hard, but I mean, it was so much fun.
Yeah. Well, so what as far as like a class that you would like to teach, whether in person or online, what's a class that you would love to just get in there and do that you haven't done yet?
That I haven't done yet that I want to teach?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, oh man, that's hard. Let's see.
I'm coming at you with the hard ones today, Mel.
I know, my goodness. I wasn't prepared for this, Sandra. Let's see. Oh, okay. I'm trying to think of something like really left field that I would like really enjoy teaching. You know, I love like Jane Fonda, and I love like, I don't know if you remember Taibo.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I think like if there's something that I could teach that I could like certify for that I would love to do, it'd be like in a super aerobics, like give me like 80s pony Jane Fonda, like slash Taibo, Billy Blank, something. Yeah. I think that would be so much fun and very sweaty.
Well, you could come up with a name, because you said you like combining those names. It'd be like,
yeah. Actually, it's funny that you say that too, because there is like, oh, I forget what cable provider I had at the time, but they were like workouts, like on-demand workouts, and there was something called karaoke, which they were doing cardio and then singing along with the songs. So karaoke. But it was so awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I must say I did it a couple times in
80s. Yeah. I just remember when I saw that video of her doing that's not Jane Fonda, Let's Get Physical. That was Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah.
The Let's Get Physical. But I remember, was it what's his name from Greece?
John Travolta.
John Travolta doing some movie. It's not Saturday Night Fever, but he was like in an exercise class, and that's image, just when you said ponytails, and that's what I am thinking is you with like the high, the high Leo,
Oh yeah.
With the
Yep. Oh yeah. Just the spandex lycra. Mm-hmm. Maybe really well. My hair is already big anyway. I had to like straighten it to tame it down, but like, oh yeah, I'd be so into that headband.
Yeah. Do you remember there was a meme where they were like champion? Do you remember that? Where they're like, it was like a fitness competition, and they're running and
and they're so full out. I love that. Yeah. But they never lose their smile. It's like they have on their teeth or something.
Those are gonna come back, and I'm gonna be like, see, those people, they knew. Well, I think there are aerobics competitions, but I don't know that they are in that vein.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I'd love to see one if that's the case. Maybe we can go together when this is all over. We're gonna go watch an aerobics competition.
Synchronized, aerobicized something. Yeah.
I mean,
you never know.
Some people say jazz dancing is like that, so maybe we're essentially watching it and we're not even realizing it.
We're not realizing it. Well, it's just not just unitard, or but
I'll do a piece next year.
Yes. Well, and do you still choreograph for competition pieces for studios?
I do. Yeah. That's usually what I do in the summer, which is this now. So
no.
I am doing like a few bits and pieces of choreography, but I know a lot of studios, especially for the coming season, are reusing last year's pieces because all of this hit like right at the beginning of the season, you know, so most people are only able to compete like once or twice, and you know, so
yeah,
I mean, it's a commitment to bring outside choreographers into your studio. Like, you know, you have to bring them in, and like, you know, so it's, yeah, so it's a little, it's a little on pause right now, but I mean, I'm very hopeful for things. Like, they're starting to move slower, and I just actually went to Texas 2 weeks ago. Yes, to teach a workshop, an in-person workshop. I was excited because obviously I've been only teaching on Zoom where I can't hear anyone. And I was very hesitant as well. And my mom was like, make sure you wear your mask. And, you know, I'm like at the front of the room with my hand sanitizer bottle and my spray, and like, you know, just like air hugging, and, you know, so yeah, but it was so awesome. They were awesome. And I also got to see one of my really good friends while I was there. So,
well, that's good. Well, so the in-person experience is possible. Was there, because I know that some studios are marking out floor space so that each person has to stay in a box. Was that kind of your experience?
Not at that studio, but the facility, especially the room where we had like the most kids, is a really, really large room. So we tried to keep them distanced as best as we can. Yeah. You know, the only thing that it's like you're so in the moment, you know, and you're not always thinking about the people standing in the background, you know. So like I usually do progressions in class, and so we opted to not do progressions because, you know, then we couldn't line people up accordingly, and then they'd have to get too close and all of that stuff, which kind of was sad. But I mean, you know, like I think the kids were just happy to move. And also Texas, that weekend specifically, Texas was open for a while. And yeah, and so then it was just that weekend where they had to start shutting things down again.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, am I going to get stuck here? Is this event going to continue? So but I mean, we did our best, and they kept the numbers. They tried to keep the numbers like to a maximum or a minimum, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Well, so how can people find you? I know that I always like to make sure people can say, you know, is it your social? Is it your website? What's the best way to find you teaching?
To find me teaching, well, Instagram is what I use most. I use Facebook also, but I kind of keep that more for people that I know directly, or people that I'm connected to. So you can find me on Instagram. My website has been like in development for a while. It's just kind of one of those things where maybe I should do that. That's what I should probably do during this quarantine, is my website. So
eventually.
Yeah, I just can't wrap my head around it. Like I've had people try and help me, and like, you know, we kind of start it, and then it just, other things happen, you know, life happens, and, you know, a website is not a priority at this moment, but maybe it will be later today.
Well, I'm glad that we could have this chat.
Yeah, thanks. I should be writing all this stuff down.
No, well, I appreciate you taking the time. I know we will be chatting soon, because we're going to try to work something out with other former colleagues. But definitely check her out. Her Instagram is at melodylacayanga, right? LAC, right?
LAC, yep.
Yeah. And I'll see you later.
Okay, thanks so much for having me.
Bye.